I first began in genealogy when I was 18 years old. I came home from college and I went down to the basement with my father to look at a big old box of letters. I found a letter from Albert Einstein to my grandmother.
My start into Jewish genealogy was all due to my daughter's question to me when she was taking a middle school trip to Ellis Island. And she came to me and she said, "Daddy, we're going to go see where the immigrants came in. Did we have any relatives that came in through Ellis Island?" And I didn't know.
JewishGen is a free online resource that allows people to research their Jewish roots, search for relatives, and learn more about their Jewish family history and heritage.
What makes JewishGen extremely important and extremely powerful is how it brings together people who are researching the same topics, how it makes connections between researchers, makes connections between family members.
JewishGen is providing a very valuable resource in the social networking aspect in terms of the Family Finder and the Stet links, the discussion forums.
No other site provides that kind of research, advice, and assistance.
My classes are interactive, and the students are able to interact with each other. We enable communication between people. We are the link to Jewish genealogy.
For me, it's a way to get in touch with the family history that I never asked my grandparents about.
This surprises many people, but JewishGen is a grassroots organization with more than 1,000 volunteers throughout the world. The importance of our volunteers cannot be overstated. They help us in many different areas, from obtaining data in difficult to reach archives, from translation, transliteration, technical support, and in other areas as well.
The volunteers are the backbone of JewishGen.
People living in completely different places. Someone in Uruguay working together with someone in Israel, working together with someone in Canada.
I'll tell you one interesting story about a volunteer. When we were doing the Dachau indexing project, I was working with an individual that was doing a significant amount of indexing. And typically, I would assign somebody 10 sheets, 10 images, 10 pages, and they would do the data entry and they would send it back in maybe 2 weeks or 3 weeks. This person was sending them back one a day. So every time I would send them 10 images, they would send it back. Then he finally said to me, "You know what, send me an extra 10 so I'll never have to wait for you to send me the next 10. At some point I wrote to him and I said, "Is there some special interest that you have in this database?" And he said, "Yes, I was there."
The museum first became involved with JewishGen in 2002 when I met Susan King, who was the visionary founder of JewishGen. It could no longer succeed as a purely volunteer organization. It had become too complicated. It needed a larger and more professional infrastructure. And so the museum took responsibility for JewishGen and set a course for JewishGen.
In 2004, I received an email from a woman living in Belgium whose background was she had spent her entire life without family and had started a number of years earlier to find out exactly who she was. I asked her, I said, "What do you know about the uncle?" She said, "Well, his last name was Wolfowitz." So I said, "Fine, what's his first name?" She said, "I don't know, but I know he lived in New York City in the 1950s. So I said, "What you're trying to do is find a man named Wolfowitz who probably changed his name to Wolf, who lived in New York City in the 1950s. And she said, "Yes." And incredibly, about 10 months later, we found the daughter of this man. So now she has close to 200 relatives, where 10 years ago, she had 11.
Right before Passover, we received a call from an elderly Holocaust survivor who was seeking the birth date of her late husband, who had recently passed away. They were in the process of putting up a tombstone and desperately wanted to include that information. I was able to determine where her husband had come from, which today is a small town in Ukraine, and I immediately contacted Marshall Katz, who is the director of JewishGen's Sub-Carpathian Research Group, he was able to contact somebody who actually went down to the town's registrar's office and was able to take a photograph of the birth record and email it to me. As soon as I received it, I of course called the family to let them know the birth date, and it was very meaningful to the family that they can include that information on the tombstone.
We had discovered some prayer books that were to have been buried as in compliance with Jewish law. They had been in a synagogue that closed, and we discovered some that had names and towns where the people were from, pre-Holocaust period, some dating back to the mid-19th century. And we rescued those books, and we put the names of the people in the towns on the German discussion group on JewishGen, and we reunited those prayer books with the children from those families. One of them was a Passover Haggadah, and it was 2 days before Passover. It was very, very moving for me to be able to do that.
It's extremely meaningful to work for JewishGen. I am constantly inspired by the volunteers who dedicate so much of their time to help us preserve our family history and heritage for future generations. It's very satisfying to be part of something that impacts so many people in a positive way.
The volunteers, I think, get out as much as they give. You know, I often hear from the translation projects of people who have found records of relatives and have realized family connections that they couldn't have otherwise.
This is a way to do something important. This is a way to meet people.
This is almost like a 24/7 job. It's not going to an office. It's not stopping at 5 o'clock and leaving.
A place where people can meet virtually, exchange information, exchange knowledge, and satisfy this very human curiosity about where we come from and who we are.